ocean, rabbit nose, legs are shifting, here they go.
Hi, my name's Nigel, and welcome to another episode of Songs Nobody Asked Me For. I'm taking a bit of liberty here, or chance really, because I have a cold, which is sitting in my head, sitting in my head here, my nose, but sort of tickling my throat a bit, so it may well be that I speak for about 5 minutes and end up coughing my guts up, really. I don't really know, but I need to do another session. It's been a couple of weeks since I've done one of these, and that's good because I want to catch up. On the other hand, what I start to realise is I forget what I've done in all the podcast when I'm doing them in succession. So I had to look back, and I was thinking, oh, I wanted to do one about festivals, but I don't think I've done that. I think I did it, and the sound was really poor, so I'm not going to do that for now. It did make me think. We had an interesting gig on, when was it? Friday night, which I want to talk about. But then I thought, I had that sort of little title of, good, the bad, and the bizarre, I think I should call it. I'm hoping I called it that. The good, the bad, and the bizarre, not the good, the bad, and the ugly. And thinking about, sort of gigs that have been really good, gigs that have been really bad, and a couple of really bizarre gigs, really. Bizarre is maybe a bit strong. But yeah, I just in general, just sort of remembering some gigs that we've played that have stood out for me, really, for different reasons. And bearing in mind, I don't get many people coming to many gigs at times, so a lot of them I could get a bit morose about, and others, others I really enjoy, really sort of get into. But yeah, so I don't know where to begin that, and I kind of was thinking of timelines, thinking of, I could do good, bad, bizarre, but then that would mean I'd get all the good stuff over at the beginning and feel miserable at the end of it, really. Um, I don't have many sort of super bad ones. I do remember, which was our own fault, when I was in the band in London, in Brilliant But, I think it was, we played the Royal Standard, and the Royal Standard was near Black Horse Road Tube Station. It's not there anymore, which is a shame. Big venue. But we played there, and I didn't know it was a big venue. I thought it was quite a small venue. It looked quite small outside. And for some reason, I remember at that time not making a big thing of it, not promoting it. Um, and that led to two quite strange things. One was, it just so happened it was the only time we ever got a review in Time Out in London. We'd sent our the tape of our one of our demo tapes to a woman called Laura Lee Davis, who was music editor or one of the music people on Time Out, really. And we had this gig, and we were supporting this other band. There was only like the two of us on this band, and they used to do this sort of gig guide, and it'd just mainly be lists of names and venues, and occasionally you'd get a few lines. And if you got a few lines, that would be amazing. We'd never got a few lines. Sometimes a name was in Time Out, and go, ooh, we had gigs advertised in Time Out. But this one, a couple of days before we played, unbeknownst to me, not having advertised it at all, we got a review in Time Out, and Laura Lee Davis said some very nice things about us. Only a really small couple of lines, something about racing guitars and hardened grooves of Brilliant But, and something about ragged and enough to stir the rebel in you, or something like that. It was nice, And I know that the band that were headlining were really peeved that we had it in there and they didn't, because that's not what you want, is it? To sort of be doing a gig and your support act getting a little mention and not you, because these things would make you stand out a little bit potentially. Didn't do any good for the gig, I have to say, but so I got very excited then. So I've gone from thinking no one's going to be there to being excited, to then pitching up at this gig. And nobody really came to see the other band either. So I think we had one friend there, and it was enormous. And what I remember about it is the only gig I've ever played where there was one of these walkways, like you could go into the crowd, So we have this big stage with a walkway and all this stuff, and pretty much playing to an empty room. Oh, it's hilarious now. Like at the time, I remember being just so gutted, really. It's a funny thing, you know. We've played to a number of empty rooms over the years. Not all the time, not all the time. Yeah, I mean, generally, you know, I would think, you know, you often think if you've got sort of 20, 30 people there, that's okay, you know, depending on the size of the place. But if you're playing a small pub, that's okay. Um, but the other place I remember playing was this is where I start to struggle because I'm there thinking, did I talk about this? But I think I talked about it in the podcast that I then had to delete because the sound was really bad. Um, we played at Hatherley Festival. Hatherley is this wonderful town, and it's a lovely town, and they do this music festival every year. It's really great, and obviously during lockdown it wasn't happening. And the year afterwards they did sort of Hatherley Unlocked, and they did it sort of socially distanced. So rather than doing it in the town, which where it was, there was some fields there, and they did it in these fields, and like a field festival. Anyway, they did that for a second year, and we managed to get invited along. So a connection. I don't really remember how we did because it was quite a, you know, I may or may not have talked on here before about how difficult it is to get festival gigs these days. Even small festivals, you know. I'm just in that place at the moment of sending off to festivals, and I think I've done about 10 or 12 so far. I don't expect to hear from any of them, and it's kind of a bit soul destroying. It's hard to know how you get them. And somebody who ran one of them told me a while back that mostly they're sort of pegged up by agencies and bands in agencies. So if you're an independent band looking to try and play, it's quite hard unless you happen to know somebody really. But you know, it's just part of the world and the way it is really. Anyway, we go and do this second Maker Festival, and it was a boiling hot day, really hot day, and we pitch up. And we're on first, and we don't mind that. It's kind of midday, you know, sort of about 1 o'clock, something like that. And the trouble was, we were in this field, and there was no shelter, nothing at all. There was just like there was some trees around the side, but it was just full on sunshine. And you know, and middle of the day, and what the locals mostly had done had decided to go to the coast for the day. I think so. Large groups of them and people had all gone off to the seaside with a view to coming back at about sort of 5 o'clock to sort of have the evening's entertainment. Really, so we literally had nobody there except, well, I say again, literally maybe 2 people were there, 3 people. And it was a bad gig really for us in that much. You know, your heart sinks and you're there and you think, oh, this is a great opportunity. We did a little video. If you're really interested, if you went onto the Curve and went through Facebook, on Facebook, go stroll through the videos, you'd find this little video we made of going in my camper van. We all went in my camper van for the day, made a little road trip of it, went there, sat up. And lovely people, really nice. Sound was amazing, but playing to nobody, and it kind of was a bit depressing. The only thing that came of it was the guy was a bit embarrassed, and he said, "Oh, you know, look, at least it's a sort of it's a rehearsal or it's a tryout for you." And you know, they offered us, I think it was either the year after or the next year, they offered us an opportunity to come play at Atherley Festival for real, which is what I put down as one of my good gigs because he gave us he said he wanted you to sort of experience the friendliness of Hatherley, he said to me, and which was lovely. And we had a good spot about 6 o'clock in the evening, 7 o'clock in the evening, to a very full Hatherley town centre, and it was good. A lot of people there, you know. Yeah, I enjoyed that. I'm not going to put it in my good because it was an okay gig. It was an average sort of, you know. We play loads of gigs, and averagely, you know, something has to stand out. Really, you know, you have to think, why does this stand out? You know. So yeah, the first one was not great though. You know, I've written myself a little list behind here, and I have to put my reading glasses on to see what else I mentioned here. Bad. Oh yeah. So this moves us from a bad gig into a good gig, but I don't know. No, I'm going to come back to that. There's 2 gigs we did over the last 2 weeks. Random gigs, random or difficult gigs, or gigs that were sort of okay but odd. We played the first ever festival I played was called Strawberry Fields, which is a folk festival in Cambridgeshire, I think. And I don't know how we got on it, but you know, it was packed. It was really busy. It was great, you know. And the only reason it's worth a quick mention is because we had no foldback sound at all. There were no monitors on the stage. We just had our amps and a PA that were sending the sound out to everybody. Now, if you're not a musician and you don't play in a band, you need foldback, especially in a lot of places. And these are speakers that face you, that give you some of the sound. In big venues, you'll have an engineer doing sound for the stage for you so that you get a good sound. And then you've got your main engineer doing, the sound for the audience. But normally, with smaller places, we get one person doing both, and that's fine, works really well. We don't have anything. What it means is on a venue like that, when you're outside and there's a lot of people there, and the winds is a bit windy blowing around. We couldn't hear each other at all. I think we did a pretty good gig actually. I've got some photographs of it, which I will try and put on now if I've got them, if I can find them. They'll be up now if you're not watching it. Me with curly long hair, maybe a bit of Pav as well, probably. I don't know if there's any pictures of Brian on there, but we played pretty well considering, and I always felt it was a bit of a testament to how good we were, that we were able to keep in time and just about play along with each other, even though we couldn't really hear what was going on really. But yeah, it's nice to play. It was our first festival, so it was kind of quite a significant gig for me in a sense. Another random one I remember is and I can only again mention this in passing, that you often play in places that are oddly set up for bands. Oddly set up for bands. There's a pub we play in Cornwall, and I like playing there, and hopefully play there again. But it's a very long, thin pub, and you've got your little bit of floor where you get, and you've got this kind of bar where you can only really have half a dozen people, and there's some seats to the side of it where people eat, and at the back it just keeps going on, and there's people further back. But when you're playing, you can't really see anybody but the bar staff really to the side, and if there's some people sitting at the bar, they'll be listening to you there. It's kind of odd. But the pub I remember, I wish I could remember where it was, but it was up in London. We turn up at this venue, and this is hard to describe, but it kind of had, I guess, the stairwell. It was upstairs. I think the stairwell was in the middle, and either side of it you had kind of seats. But at the front there was this stage. So trying to imagine. Let's do it the other way. If I'm the stage here, so where you're watching me now is a wall, and then either side of that are sort of chairs. There's a little space in the front, and like sort of little, I wouldn't call it a mosh pit or a dance hall really, a dance floor really. Wasn't big enough. It was probably about the same size as the stage. The odd thing is, this wall in front of us is covered in mirror. It's like a big, massive mirror wall. So, you've got people to the sides of you, because we had a fair few people again. People to the sides, one or two people in front, but if they're in front, they're going to get blared by this sound because it's not very big space. And then you're watching yourselves play. It's kind of really... That's definitely on the bizarre gigs, I think, and possibly one of the most bizarre, because it's kind of just a random experience of playing a gig in which you're watching yourself, really. Very strange. I'm sure people have got all sorts of different experiences of this, and if you do, I'd love to hear some of them, or if you want to put some of them down on the comments section below. Another bad gig, I can't remember where it was, but my experience in London was that people used to sort of not always be very nice to play with. You go and play one of these showcase gigs with 2 or 3 other bands, and I remember people messing around with the controls of my amp, the pedals. You do a sound check at the beginning. Why would you do that? It's kind of a bizarre thing to do, really bizarre thing to do. But I remember some of those. Mostly, I think the ones that I struggle with are the ones that with hostility, where people were just not really into what you're doing. And I think I talked on a previous podcast about playing a gig in a pub in Paynton where really nobody wanted me to be there, and people were sort of shouting and slagging me off the whole time I was doing it. That wasn't much fun. We played a gig that was difficult the other week. It's at a venue in Plymouth, and it's a great venue, and we've played there before, and I'm hoping to play there again. And we, for whatever reason, we just didn't bring anybody along. People that would sometimes come along weren't available, so really it was just us. And so there were probably about 20 locals there, and they seemed to be quite. But it was quite hard work, and at the end of songs, again, you'd wait a bit before people would give you a sort of light applause. A couple of people, 2 or 3 people seemed to be quite into it, and you have to follow them. Watch them, get something good from it. But there was a couple there that I thought were really quite into listening to us, and and that was fine. But just towards the end, the woman said, we were just about to play, and she said, I wondered if I could just get you to, could you just play us a cover? could you play us a cover? Now, you know how I feel about this sort of thing. Could you play us a cover? We've been listening and it's been great, but, really could do with a cover right now, And I thought, oh, I know. And I said, well, I'm really sorry. Come on, we don't have any covers. Oh, right. And then at the end, someone else came up, another woman came up to us and said, oh, I really want to say it was really good. It's fantastic. Really enjoyed your music. She said, I got a suggestion for you. You go, okay. And she said, her suggestion was that we should, every 3 or 4 songs, we should play a cover. Okay. It's tough, it's tough to sort of, the psychological response to that is difficult. And I have to just smile and I kind of get it. I did a few podcasts ago about how we listen to music these days. And I think it's a lot for a normal local pub for people to listen to original music. If we're doing a full set, we're doing an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes. That's a long time, I think. So I do get it. I really understand it. There isn't really an answer to it beyond the dilemmas of the ecosystem I described, but I found it tough, tough to have somebody saying that to me right at the end of what I found a difficult gig. But there was a plus to it, and I think I talked about a little while back about we're hoping to try out a new drummer soon, as our drummer wants to shift into doing something different in the band. We have a guy coming tomorrow, actually, if my throat lasts. But at this gig, we met another guy, young guy who says he's a percussionist, has really got on well with Gray, our drummer, and he's going to come and try out for us as well. And because Gray wants to become more of a percussionist, and I was saying to him, well, maybe you could kind of mix it up a bit. If he can play drums, which apparently he can, you could do a bit of both, and maybe that would be great. And sometimes it's the person. I mean, the drummer who's coming this week is a technically really good drummer, I think, but would have to come from Exeter. We're in Plymouth. Yeah, that's fine. And he's in a covers band and he's looking for a new project alongside that. And that might work really well. He might really raise our game, but it might be a trouble with commitment. And then if we get a gig, am I going to have really difficult problems trying to get gigs? But a plus from that was 2 people. We've now got 2 people to try out. I'm so excited about that. So I think that made that into a better gig. Which moves me lastly into better gigs. I talked quite a while back, about playing at the Phoenix in Exeter. That was a great gig. The one where I got stopped by the police afterwards because Brad had taken me down a pedestrian area, temporary pedestrian area, without us realising. And frustratingly, I haven't told the guys yet, but we just had an email from the Phoenix asking us if we could fill a slot for them this Saturday. But the fact that I can only just about talk here means that I'm probably going to have to say no to that, which is a bit of a shame because you don't get these chances that often. If someone asks you if you could fill in for something and you can't, you're often a bit screwed really to then try and get a gig again, really. But you can't play really, can you? I want to put in this category a gig I played in Plymouth when I hadn't played for a while. I think I talked about this a little in the singer-songwriter section. A gig when I played with my son. Only gig I've ever played with my son. He doesn't play publicly. He's not a big fan of that sort of thing. Such a great gig. We played 3, maybe 4 of my songs. He worked them out. It was one I'd been doing this singer-songwriter thing for years, and having him play with me was stunning. And that's always going to be up there as one of my favourite gigs. And frustrating, I have no recording of it. I played a gig in the what's it called? The Cherry Tree as well. I had this sort of little band thing going when I first moved to Plymouth with me and a bass player. I've talked about this as well. And that was a gig I remember there being a lot of people there and people being into what we were doing, even though it was just me and him and a drum machine. And I liked the fact that kind of worked. It was like one gig that we did that was kind of quite successful and busy and was nice, It was nice. Now, just before I finish here, I just want to check, because I feel I had another one here. I just need to mention the B-bar. We talked about this the other day. We played the B-bar. I think I did one of these after we'd done it. And that was really nice, yeah. I did do it, yeah. So I'm not dwelling. You can see I'm whizzing through some of these. B-bar really appreciates original music. They enjoyed it. There were a fair amount of people there. But, we played the Apple and Parrot in Torquay on this Friday. We played. And old men that we are, we weren't on till 10 o'clock at night. I was thinking, blimey, that's a late. And we've done there once before, and it was fine. It wasn't very busy. There was a few people in the bar, but it's a nice venue. It's a good stage. But it's a long way for us. It's an hour and a half drive from here. I was in Plymouth for the day, so it was kind of then, what would it have been? About a 50-minute drive from there, and then when I had to go back at, well, it was probably about half midnight. I didn't get back till 2 o'clock in the morning, which for me means I'm knackered for about a week afterwards, really. And it's only it's Tuesday today, so I'm still knackered from Friday. But we met a very lovely young woman called Isla, who's a sound engineer. She's doing a training on a painting. I think she's doing a music technology course, and she was really lovely and really set us up with great sound on stage and off stage, I believe. And it was quite busy, and it's Torquay is a tasty place. It's lively. It's a lot happening, and there's always a bit of an edge to the evenings there. And there were a few tables of quite drunk, what seemed to be quite drunk and happy young people, who looked, they were singing away to these to the songs that were being played on the PA system before we started, which always worries me a little because they're singing songs they know really well and singing. I think, well, are they going to be up for this original music? And then I'm just about to play, and somebody comes up from the back, and I've got some experience of this now. And I'm thinking, and they said, "Oh, look, I wonder if you could do me a favour. It's my mate's birthday in the back there." And I thought, oh, blimey, they're going to ask me to play something, And he said, I just wondered if you could play Happy Birthday at some point. And I thought, oh, okay, Happy Birthday. I've never played Happy Birthday at a gig, but I was so relieved. I said, yeah, of course we will. And I said, are you going to be here for a while? Because I don't know when we'll do it. Yeah, we're going to be here all evening. They're quite a big table of people. So I thought, oh, okay, nothing else. We'll have 10 or 12, 15 people at the back there. That's grand. Anyway, we start playing. There's probably about 30, 40 people there. We do probably, I don't know, 3/4 of our first set, and then just people start coming in, and it gets busier and busier. Then when we do our second set, it's just rammed, and we got people in front of us dancing. I say young people, like a lot of young people there, all dancing to the music. They were just getting really into the beat, and that was great. I did my little "Why Did You" sing along, which is in "Why Did You?" There's a la 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 at the end. It's often a thing I do. If we've got a good audience, is just get them to join in with me. They're all joined in. It was amazing. I had a guy come up from the back, push his way through the crowd when I'm singing a song. And if you go on Facebook, no, it's not on there actually. No, I must put it on. I've only got 2 videos. They're really poor videos of the place, which is a shame. The sound engineer, again, very kindly took a few videos. If Lynn, our or Brad's partner, who's wonderful at taking photos and videos, had been there, we'd have got some videos of all these people there. You can't see it quite so clearly, but no, she took a couple of videos. And I put one on Facebook of us playing one of our songs, How to Save the Day, that's what it's called. But yeah, I've got this captured on another video where this guy pushed his way through to the front, and he just comes up and he goes, "What's up?" to me while I'm singing, and disappears again. And I think, oh, okay. And then a couple of minutes later, he come back and gave me money, and he just said, "Oh, it's for you. Gave me £10, and I said, "Oh, what's this for?" He said, "Because you're great, you're amazing. I just wanted to give you some money." Okay, disappeared off. But yeah, these people really into it. What I found out afterwards was that there was a band playing down the road. I don't know who they were, but we when I was lugging my kit down before, I saw them. There was a tour bus and some vans with equipment. They weren't a massive band, but clearly big enough to have that stuff. And they were on till 10:30. It's a slightly convoluted story because I went to the loo just before we started playing, and there was an older guy there, younger than me, older guy, and a fairly drunk young guy there, and I was doing what you do in the toilet, and they were talking, and the bloke was going, "Oh, what's the name of this band up the road?" And the young guy was going, "Oh," he said the band name. I don't remember what it was, and he said, "Oh yeah, I've come from Plymouth, and he said, I don't really want to see them. I'm not sure I want to see them, but my mate wants to see them." And then when I'm washing my hands, I joined the conversation. I said, "What was the name of this band?" And he said, "Oh, I don't know, so and so." And I said, "Well, like, if you don't want to see them and you're from Plymouth, there's a Plymouth-based band playing here in a minute." He said, "Oh, who's that?" And I said, "Oh, it's my band." And he said, "Well, you're from Plymouth?" And I said, "Yeah." He asked me where I was from, where I lived. I used to live in Peveril in there. And he said, "Oh, Peveril, man." And he lived in Peveril. And he said, "What's the band called?" I said, "The Curve." And then he started texting. Curve. And then I'm not sure whether he stayed or whether he went, but apparently, because I heard this from the sound engineer afterwards, when this other band finished, they finished at 10:30, but we were on from 10 till midnight. And as people were coming out, maybe it's this guy, I don't know, people were saying, there's live music over at the Apple and Parrot. And the people were buzzing and wanting to play, so they all came over. And that's why we had a big crowd. That's great. But, they were just really into the music. Nobody asked us for covers. Nobody worried about the fact we were playing original music. And I've got to say, it's up there with probably one of the best gigs I've ever done, just because we had a mass of people there that were into what we were doing, and it made us very, very happy. And, as I'm always saying, it doesn't take a lot, but that was a lot for me. And I'm now in the process of trying to get another gig there, because that's the sort of thing. Then if you get a lot of people there, then usually venues are quite keen. It gets, and we'll see. Need to get paid by them as well, possibly. I don't know, but we'll see. So there we are. That was a bit of a whistle stop tour of, some gigs really. I don't know. Felt like I wanted to sort of just come and speak, and maybe that was what I wanted to talk about really. I'm meeting a band tomorrow, supposed to be online, so we'll see what the signal's like, called Heartwood. And they're a sort of rock band. I think they're from North Devon. I'm really looking forward to meeting them. 3 young guys, and catching up with them and talking about how they make music really. So I'm hoping that will come after this. And then I've got another band I'm trying to liaise with called the Ragdolls, who I'm hoping to meet up with at some point soon. They're sort of indie band really. And onwards and upwards we go, Thanks for listening, watching. Do subscribe. Please follow me. That's really helpful to me. And tell your friends, tell anybody else if you're interested in this. Go look at the band, #Music the Curve, and I will be back another time.
Tell you that I love you, then I run. I tell you that I love you, then I run.